Welcome back, everyone, to the FloTrack podcast. If you'd like to write in, the email address is flotrackpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and you can watch the show on flotrack.org/FloTrackPodcast. Gordon, happy Friday. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Doing all right? Just all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I guess this part of the podcast is being recorded, our pre-podcast that we don't record, the unadulterated, unfiltered podcast that only you and me and Elon, our producer, get to listen to. That we don't even talk about that podcast, but we're talking about this one. It's number 200 and what? 8?
Ooh.
208?
Well, let me check. That's a good question. I'm not counting as quickly as you are with these things. Let's see. Yesterday's podcast with CJ Albertson was podcast number. Oh man, Lincoln, where's the title? I don't know. I lost it. I'm bad at this. I need more practice.
How did you not know?
He tagged it to the clips page. That's why. No, he tagged it to the clips page. He tagged the last two to the clips page. What is going on here with Lincoln's tagging ability? So I don't know. I can't find it now. Where's the podcast, Lincoln? This has all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. Okay, the last one I did on December 8th.
Oh, it's 207. All right, it's 207.
Yeah.
All right, so this is number 208. So this is podcast number 208. 208. I ran an 800 one time in 208. I was in high school. It was one of my first breakout races. I was stuck at like 220. I was stuck at 220 all of freshman year. And then all of a sudden, my aunt
12-second
my aunt bought. So one, I got new spikes. I was running 220 and 222 all season long as a freshman in high school. My aunt bought me a new pair of socks. I was like, ooh, these are like my first ever like thin racing socks. I normally had just had cotton. Like, you don't have the materials. I had spikes. And then my coach told me, Gordon, you're going to run the 800 differently this time. I'm going to be standing at the 300 meter mark. And when you see me, you're going to just run as fast as you can. Like, I don't care that the finish line is 300 meters away. You're just going to run literally as fast as you can. You're going to just go to all out sprint. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that, coach. And he's like, no, that's what you're going to do. So he was at the 300 meter mark. And I'm like, like in 5th place or whatever of like a dual meet. And he's like, Gordon, he's pointing at me. You better go right now. Right when you cross this line, you have to start sprinting. And he was, saying it in a coaching way. And then I did. And then I ran 212. I ran like 10 seconds faster. And then the next time I did it again, I ran 208. And I was like, oh, wow, this is how you run fast. You actually have to try. And I think that's one weird thing that I think all runners, like we don't, there's like that one race when all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what it means like to push yourself. And for me, it was running a 208. It was like pushing myself. So anyway.
Was it at
memories?
You said the 300 to go mark or the 300 meter mark?
300 to go.
Okay.
So 500 meters in.
That's the classic spot, so right? Where people
the start of the backstretch.
Take their foot off the gas. Yeah. That's great coaching. That's great coaching. Yeah, I remember the first one I did, my first breakthrough, it was in a 2 mile. And it was kind of something similar. But what happened was the race was so big that there were so many people in the field. Because normally the 2 mile where I was running, 15 people, 10 people. A lot of times it was combined boys and girls. So there was quite a few people on the track. But when it came down to it, there weren't many people in the race or near you. And then we went to California to run a 2 mile. And there was probably 30 people in my heat. And I just started racing people. And I was like, this is fun. I'm passing all of these people and I'm racing people and I'm in this competition. I got this huge PR. And that was when I had that sort of realization too about how hard you can push yourself, especially when there's people that you're racing and you're not so obsessed with the clock.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, cause you don't really know what running is like until you have that moment of like trying. I don't know. It's weird. We think like, oh yeah, this is how you're running. Like, this is how fast I can run. Like, cause you're just mentally, you don't know how to like try. And then that moment you
Yeah.
try, you're like, oh, okay, this is what separates, mediocre from good. And then the great people are able to do that for longer times and at a faster pace.
Mhm.
So anyway, it's running in a nutshell. That's why I'm always impressed. That's why I'm always impressed with like some of these top elite athletes where they've gotten so good that it's not about effort anymore. Like it's not about like
Mm.
pushing your body to the limits. Like when Kipchoge ran his 159, he after doing that event, he was able to like run like 150 meters of like
Mhm.
celebrating and like victorying. And even all these elite athletes are able to do like victory laps. Whenever I ran a PR, the last thing I could do was a victory lap, right? I couldn't, not that I needed a victory lap, but like when I would running to like my all out ability, I wasn't able to just like immediately jog 400 meters because like I was
Yeah.
going to the well. And it's these elite athletes where it's not about trying to use up all their energy. They already are able to do it. It's just like it's like weird. I feel like we try to run to empty, where they're never going to get to empty. It's just about they're able to stay at a higher mile per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
also, they don't seem to miss either, right? The range of outcomes is really, really small when it comes down to it. Yeah, one time they might run 143 in the 800, another time they might run 144, but that could be because of the weather or because of something in training. Whereas when you're developing in the sport or when you're not as good, you never really know if you're going to be able to answer the call every single time because sometimes
Yeah.
mentally you might just not be there. Mentally, you just might have a horrible race and you check out and you run really poorly. With the top level, they seem to have the mental part down to where it's automatic. And the only thing that changes is a bit in terms of, okay, was their build up perfect or slightly less than perfect? Or did they make the move at the right time or did they wait too long? But like mentally, they're so dialed in every single time. I guess it's almost like a golfer, right? Sure, there's instances where they'd shoot double bogey, but it's very, very rare that there is just a complete meltdown on the course, right? They're just locked in, locked in, locked in every single time. But when you're like, I don't know about you, when I was running in high school, it was just like a crapshoot every day. When I would go like run a race, it's like this is either going to be really good or it could be totally bad because I might get 4 laps in and just be like, oh, this sucks.
And get like a side stitcher. You're like, oh, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like for elite athletes, running is like when we got really good at one level of a video game. When like you played the
Oh
same
yeah,
video
yeah,
game
yeah.
over and over again, and you're just like you just know like a Guitar Hero thing or like a certain level where like you're able to just like go through it like even blindfolded, but you can do it like easily. But then there's that moment where you want to try to do it perfectly at the optimum pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's like runners are basically really really good experienced video gamers. That's
No,
my
that's a
analogy
good.
of the
That's
day.
a No, that's a great comparison. Yeah, they're just so locked in. Okay, on today's show, we're gonna read some emails and catch up on emails. But first, a couple stories I want to talk about. First, the 2021 World Indoor Championships in Nanjing, which was formerly known as the 2020 World Indoor Champs in Nanjing, has now been pushed to 2023. They're still going to hold the 2022 World Indoor Games in Belgrade. So you're going to go back to back years, 2022, 2023, but they're not going to be holding them this March. I suppose we should not be surprised by this. In the World Athletics release, they talked about how they have just a small window to host the meet because of other obligations. So basically, this was their only opportunity in March, and they're going to hold off on it. Do you think this is indicative of what could happen indoors, all throughout the world and in the United States? We'll see some meets getting pulled.
I don't know. I don't think no. I still think like the SEC Indoor Championship is still going to happen. Like I just think that there are
Yeah.
certain things that will still happen. We're still going to have March Madness. I mean, I think March Madness is going to be in a bubble situation, but I think people were realizing like, do we need to go through all the effort for a World Indoor Championship in an Olympic year during this time? Like, people still go to World Indoors during Olympic years. Like I remember thinking about like no one's ever done it. I mean, 2016 people did it. 2012. I mean, Galen Rupp and Bernard
Mm-hmm.
Lagat, I think, or at least Lagat or Mo Farah. Someone I remember 2012 there were people doing indoors.
Yeah.
I think that it's just like one of those things where they know the athlete's mindset. The athlete's mindset is now like super precautious and super like just get to the Olympics and figure out when to get there. Like, giving them the extra challenge of like, hey, also come to this meet in China where the virus originated from. Not that it's like in Nanjing's arena, but it's just like most I think athletes are gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on this one. The same reason I'm passing on this, that, and the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just going to make sure I'm at my best for the trials and for the Olympics. And I'm not gonna be tempted by the indoor title because let's be honest, there's no indoor Olympics. We have that running joke between us. For those who don't, yeah, I don't know if we ever talked about. We say there's no indoor Olympics a lot in real life. Whenever something doesn't, when do we say it? Whenever like something doesn't go our way, or like, well, there's no indoor Olympics. It's because Petra, Georgia, about the outdoor NCAA title a few years ago, compared to losing indoors, or compared to winning indoors, or I don't know what it was, but he's like, winning indoors isn't as great because there's no indoor Olympics, and it's like it's true. Like the indoor champion is not it's not a mantle that people put like.
Yeah.
I bet you Centro forgot that he's an indoor champion. Like, I bet you Centro doesn't even remember. He's like, oh yeah, I guess I did win indoors at one time. He remembers he's
That'd
an
be
Olympic
interesting.
champion.
If you had Central would say, you need to list the top 10 accomplishments of your career, do you think world indoor champion would be on them?
Or you just say like, if I say like, how many, what play, if you say like, what place did you get at Worlds the past 4 times? And to see if he like mentions indoors, because you probably will skip over indoors and just be like, oh, I was like 4th here, then I got 3rd here, first.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like your brain naturally will just think of every outdoor championship and won't think about, oh yeah, there was indoors. Like, I guarantee you he knows how many times he's won USAs and doesn't count indoors for his USA titles. It's like, Molly Huddle. It's like, how many times have you won USAs? It's like, well, I've won it like 54 times because I win the 12.2K, the 13 minus 8 mile, the 5.8K.
The road championships.
The road championships.
Well, I think, we always have to put qualifiers on everything because the moment you put, he won his 6th straight U.S. title, and then people say, well, what about indoors? So then you have to say his outdoor title, or you're talking about, well, this person never medaled. Well, no, actually, at the 2010 World Indoors, they medal. Okay, they have no global outdoor medals. That's what we're talking about, the major medals here, and that's Olympics, that's World Championships when it comes to track. I guess one effect of this would be that fewer people would run U.S. indoors, if that's something that people are interested in, but I don't know if they are. It removes the incentive for world championships. But as you said, flying all the way across the world in an Olympic year, which, okay, if it's at the, end of March, middle of March, that's about 3 months from the, that's about 3 months from the Olympic trials if you're in the United States. And I still think, and I don't know this, I'm not reporting this, I haven't talked to anybody about it. You would probably know more than I do, but
James Harden's getting traded to Sixers? Is that what you know?
Yes. For both Simmons and Embiid. It's crazy. Daryl Morey did a complete 180. It was just nuts.
Okay.
I think there's going to be more of these track meets, more of these sound running type of meets that crop up, because I think that one was seen as a success and get more people getting standards. And then as the weather gets a little bit warmer, you're going to have more people, which it's going to get warmer in LA in about 3 weeks. You probably start incorporating some sprinters who want to get in some early season work. And we're going to end up skipping indoors entirely, which again, I don't think is a bad thing given the circumstances. I don't know that, but I'm just
guessing. USA's, I could see USATF being like, We don't want to spend the money on indoors. I think
Yeah.
they will say it's for precaution when really it's for, we don't want to deal with the headache and the money that it would cost to like do it the quote right way. And they'll just be like, hey, we can just blame it. We don't have to deal with that. We can put all of our focus on making sure the trials start, finish.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
These aren't drivers of revenue. World Indoors in Portland, which was a great meet, I went to it, lost money. So if Vinland Anna and crew can't figure out a way to make this thing work, to make it profitable, I don't have much confidence in the rest of the meet organizers out there throughout the world. No disrespect to them. But you're right. Like we could see, I don't know, some meets at Mount Sac. We could see some more meets at throughout Southern California. Maybe the return of your favorite venue, AP Ranch. But they're running for real this time. Not just Michael Norman. It's not just Michael Norman runs sub 10 and everyone else screws around. Florida, Claremont, get Claremont going. That's easy.
Do you think that sprinters excel in small meets? I feel like distance runners are used to going to like distance only events, like a mile only meet, or like this track meet was just a 10K, 5K. But you don't really see that in sprinting events. You don't really see like, hey, we're all just here for these two races, the 100 and the 200, and then we're done, right? Sometimes Florida does like that. They do like their own little sprint only meet, but the performances aren't normally that good. Like most top sprint performances come from the expectation rounds, and like there's fans, and there's just like more of like structure around it, like championship style. Whereas distance runners can sometimes recreate that because they have the whole like time trial aspect and like the whole like, where they run 13 flat in a forest, right? I don't think you're going to see a 9.7 in a forest, right? You're only going to see a 9.7 when there's people in the stands, there's pressure, there's really good competition. No one's just going to run 9.7 by themselves in the forest. So do you think that, basically the long way to get this, do you think sprint times might actually not be as good in 2021 because they're not going to have that full stadium environment, that those big meets, those, championship style environments?
So what you're saying is sprint times are more influenced by external factors, whereas distance running times are more influenced by internal factors or factors that go along with the race itself, such as getting a proper pacer in the race or having the optimal weather in the race. I think there's something to that. Obviously, Norman's sub 10 flies in the face of that a bit. I also think when we see those miles, usually those are postseason, so everybody's in shape. Whereas when we see the one-off sprint meets, aren't they normally in March and April, like preseason?
Early.
Yeah. So we've never seen a September meet where we get all the sprinters together after the World Championships of the Olympics, and someone throws a bunch of money out and says, "Hey, fastest person wins." Whatever, $5,000, $10,000.
Well, that's also
so that
a thing.
Could be it too.
Most of these like there was no prize money for this track meet, right? People were just doing it because they wanted to run fast, right? Yeah. And like, no sprinter needs a time standard right now. Like they know the winning time at is going to be fast enough for the people.
That's what we thought in 2019.
Yeah, I know. With Ronnie Baker. Yeah, Ronnie Baker almost didn't make it because he had the standard.
Kenny B getting on that 200 team.
Yeah, well, 200 is a little different, but because all the good athletes skip the 200. But yeah, I just feel like, I don't know. I'm just gonna be interested to see what sprinters do, because distance, like you said, I think you're right. There are going to be these pop-up meets that come. The Jesse Williams will put on another track meet part 2, the Second Awakening. And I think distance runners are used to that. They like doing that. They love doing self-sustained time trials. I mean, hell, Bowerman just did their own meet. Yeah, that's what they need to do. So, but sprinters aren't used to that. Sprinters are used to like being in front of a crowd.
Right. Well, but I'm looking at the 2021 Diamond League schedule, and the first meet is May 23rd in Rabat. So that's about a month before the Olympic trials. You're not going to open up there. That'd be way too late, and you're not going to fly all the way across the world. I don't have the Continental Tour schedule in front of me. A lot of these races that they do hop in early season, like the Florida relays, like the Texas relays, are on college campuses. You don't know what the restrictions are going to be. So I could see, say you take the track meet as you had last week, and you have it over 2 days. You have the 5,000 and the 10,000, and it's in Southern California where a lot of sprinters are located. They're going to want to get in times. You could probably add in a morning session there, and you run the 100 and 400 one day, and then you run the 200 and the hurdles or something the second day, just to get them some. They're going to want race reps, right? And I don't think the people in California are going to want to go all the way to Florida. So I could see it happening and it actually becoming pretty interesting. Now, a couple of days ago on the pod, we found out when you guys were talking about the spreading out the NCAA meet potentially over 3 days, and the conference meet over 2 weekends. We found out that Lincoln wants to make sure that the exact same amount of people stay in the venue for both times because the goal of the schedule changes to make sure people quadruple. I really like that. That's good.
I don't think he understood it. When I was telling him that, I was like, you do realize you're just like making the problem twice as bad, not half as bad. Like you're just
He's like but they can quadruple.
You're multiplying it by 2 instead of dividing by 2.
Yeah. Can we bring Oliver Horta back? He can run more events.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. No indoors. I mean, but again, let's be honest. Mo Farah, well, maybe he did indoors a couple times, but like I think the proof that indoors doesn't matter and never will matter. Who is the most famous track athlete of our modern era?
Festus Legat. Oh, Usain Bolt. Sorry.
Yes.
Usain Bolt.
How many times did he do world indoors?
Right. Zero. Well, and look at our current
the most famous track athlete in the past of this generation.
Yeah.
Didn't do indoor track. So why are we doing indoor track? If the most that would be like if LeBron James didn't play, or it'll be like if Michael Jordan was like, I don't play NBA. I don't play in the NBA finals. Like they'll be like, then the finals don't mean anything. I only, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, and let's look even in the short term. What would you say right now is the most interesting, compelling event given the personnel, men's and women's? Same event, but men and women.
Oh, 400 hurdles.
Right. Which does not exist at the indoor championships. So even if everybody showed up, right, you're missing that event. I mean, it'd also be, and you'd want to see Joshua Cheptegei, who I guess could jump into 3,000.
Who is the current best track athlete, and what event does that track athlete run primarily?
Talk about men or women?
Men. Sprinter.
Oh, you talking about Lyles in the 200?
Yeah, there's no indoor 200.
Right.
So it's like another thing. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. There's an indoor 400, but people don't take it seriously.
Poland has the world record in the indoor 4x4. It shows that it's not a real sport. Poland should not be the 4x4 world record holders.
Listen. Other than the fact that they don't really have any great 400-meter runners on the men's side, what basis do you have to make that comparison? I mean, the 100's not in it. Obviously, it's a 60, which is a different event, but the 400 isn't the same event because of lanes. 800. Okay, I could get interested in an 800 indoors. Kind of fun because there's contact and every third person gets DQ'd. 1500. All right, that's fine. And then 3K isn't an event
Did
that's
David
contested
Radi-
outdoors.
did David Radisha ever do indoors?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Probably
I want
not.
to say no. But we can find out. Let me just go to his Wikipedia page here. I should know this. My inclination is to say no. Actually, my inclination is to say he
Why do
just
we
done like
have
one
why do we
random
have
indoor
indoors?
race.
Why do we have indoors? This has become a anti-indoor podcast. I'm all for it, but why do we have indoors?
Well, he doesn't have any indoor medals, that's for sure. I just looked it up. We have indoors so people can race in the cold weather. So that's why obviously Bolt's not going to do it because Jamaica just runs outdoors during that time. Are there indoor facilities in Kenya? I don't think so. I've never seen one. Are there indoor facilities in Ethiopia? No. I mean, even for half the United States, half the track running population of the United States, it doesn't really make sense because half of the track running population of the United States is in places where you could compete outdoors, right? California, Texas, Florida, Oregon. Oregon is a little rough, but you get down to
Hear
California,
me out.
run it.
Hear me out.
It's because of Northeastern people like you. That's why we do it. That's the whole reason. You and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
In what world are we saying that like so track and field now says like I'm sorry but like we just can't play in cold weather? Imagine if football was like once December starts, all football games must be in domes. They'll be stupid,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers would be like, "What? It doesn't make any sense." Like,
Well, they have a
we need to
dome
be in
though.
domes now. What? Green Bay
Well,
doesn't have a dome,
Minnesota has a dome. No, Minnesota has a dome. Detroit has a dome. The Super
but
Bowl.
Green
Well, they
Bay
did the cold
doesn't.
weather Super Bowl once.
Yeah,
No, the logical thing to do, and this pains me as a track fan because I like watching more track, but the logical thing to do would just be take a couple months off, give them the time off, and then let's have a really good outdoor season on the pro level. That's what would make sense.
I mean,
Or do an outdoor season in Australia, like some people have done. That's what Risha did during his career. Now I'm remembering. He would go down to Australia during March, and he ran in a lot of 800s, just like Nick Simmons did. I think Centro was going to do that. I don't know if he ever ended up doing it one year. Go to Southern Hemisphere. That's what tennis does, right? They follow the sun. They follow the
yeah.
warm weather.
Or what they should do is they should delete World Indoors, delete World Relays, and just replace it with a championship major season where you have 4 outdoor championship meets where
Mm-hmm.
you can win all 4. There's not just one outdoor championship. There's 4 outdoor championships. Then people will be like, "Hey, can you win all 4?" And they're all in a different location. You have like the Masters, you have the French Open, you have Wimbledon, you have it like that.
Yeah.
I've talked about this many times, but that's what they should do. No indoor. If I was ever SEPCO, if I was ever president or in charge of World Athletics, I'd be like, "Hey guys, we're getting rid of indoors. It's a waste of money. Indoors is a sport for invitationals and for college kids. We're pros now. We play big boys. We run on a big boy track, which is 400 meters, not 200. So let's get with it."
Do you want to talk about the marathon project briefly? It's going to be next Sunday, so we'll have time to
I mean, we
preview
could
it. But
talk.
I just thought it was interesting. They added Jared Ward.
Yeah, Jared Ward's
So that's
added.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
What are we getting out of whoever wins that race? Like what's the like whoever wins these 2 races, the men's and women's race, like what's our reaction going to be to it? It's not going to be a fast time, right? It's not going to be like an American record attempt, right? It's like the men's race will probably won in 209, 20,
well,
right?
the course is fast, and you're getting a lot of people together who have similar PRs, and you're adding a rabbit in there. So I think you could see something quick. Yes, I agree. It's not going to be an American
in
record,
a world where
but
yeah,
there's a big gulf between American record and your garden variety 210. I think if someone runs a 208 or a 207, it's noteworthy because that's just a rare for the men. That's just a rare performance for the men. For the women, I think you're getting an interesting look at that next, like that. Obviously, none of the Olympians are in this race, but I'm in, Sarah Hall, Kellen Taylor, Steph Bruce, Kira D'Amato is interesting to me. Yeah.
But like, here's the thing: when we look back on all these athletes' like careers, are any of us going to mention their marathon project performance? Like
Depends how fast they run. If they
when we
get a
recap Des
PR,
Linden, when we recap Des Linden and Shalane Flanagan and Sarah Hall and all these people, when we recap their career, we're going to look at how they do at all the majors, how they do at the trials, and their PRs.
mm-hmm.
We're not going to be like, yeah, well, remember in 10 years
But they
ago
get a
in
PR.
2020? Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's only going to be memorable if they run fast.
And I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's what's going to happen here. They've set up the course to be fast. I mean, on the men's side, you have now Ward and Fauble, right? You have Levens who's sub 210. And I just think we're finally going to see somebody. We have CJ Albertson, who was on the pod yesterday, who's run 209 on a treadmill. He doesn't consider that a real 209, so he's motivated to do it in real life on a
Would have been
on
a
a
good
course.
take would have been him saying, I do think it's a real 209.
I know. I wanted him to. I was going to interrupt him and be like, no, wrong. Fact check. Incorrect. So I'm, and for the women, again, you have so many of the top 10 women in the United States in that field that I think you're going to see, again, somebody break through and run a quick time.
Yeah.
The women don't have that same barrier that the men do, where everybody is running into 210 all the time, and then a couple guys break through here and there. Like the women are ahead of that mark relative to the rest of the world, but I think it's gonna be fast. Anyway, should we go to emails?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do a rapid fire here. Here's one from Charles. He says, "Hi, Kevin, Lincoln, and Gordon. Do you consider that Cooper Tier and Luis Grijalva have a chance to take medals at future U.S. championships or trials since they beat all the Tinmen on Saturday at the track meet, or do you consider that the Tinmen just performed under their expectations?" What do you think?
Well, the Tin Men weren't really taking medals, so the people that need to take the medals from are like the Bowermans and the athletes formerly known as NOPs, right? I guess Drew Hunter. Has Drew Hunter medaled yet at USA's? I don't think he has.
Medaled at
he's finished
USA's?
top 3 yet. Yeah.
Well, indoors. We talk about indoors. Remember B Heat? He won it from the B Heat. I love the B Heat win.
Get off
though.
that B Heat win.
Yeah.
I do think they are going to be good. Maybe not. I think that Cooper Tier and Luis Grijalva, when they're pros, I think they will be legitimate, Olympic team contenders for the 2024 trials, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any more clarity on what Grijalva's plans are internationally for competition? Have you talked to any of your sources down there in Flagstaff? Figure out what he wants to do?
No, I haven't asked. I think he has both options. Maybe I think Guatemala would be like, maybe he'll just run for USA's at USA's, and then if he makes it, then he's an American. If he doesn't, then he's Guatemalan. It's typically a lot of these athletes who have these dual citizenship. That's what they do. They do the first attempt as an American, see where they stand. If it looks positive, they probably stay maybe a year or more. If it doesn't, it's like, all right, I'm switching, and that's basically how it works. They all run USA's for 1 or 2 years, reassess, and then switch nationality. That's what Sam Parsons did. That's what Peter Callahan did. That's what what's her name? The Greece athlete, Alexi Pappas did. That's that's what Aisha Prat did. Like they all just kind of they get their feet wet in the USA world, see where they stand, and then they're like, all right, I want to go to the Olympics. I'm not American anymore. That's how it works.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Here we go. Pete. Do you guys think Coleman should still get a bye to the 2022 World Championships after being banned? That seems ludicrous to me. Reigning champion or not, that should be part of the punishment. I got to admit,
Yeah, I
I
was
didn't
actually
think
thinking
about
about
this.
that.
I did not
I
think
was
about
thinking about
this.
it when I was on the pod with Lincoln, and I'm like, oh yeah, Coleman has a bye to 2022, and I was like, wait, should they give a bye to the guy who's been banned? Like maybe bans should eliminate buys.
Well, what would be crazy is if the ban overlapped the trials, but didn't overlap the world championships. So the only way he got in was via the bye. That'd be pretty wild.
Oh,
But
that
that's
would have
not
been
what's happening.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been. Oh, that's what we need. That would be perfect.
That'd have been,
Like, oh, I don't need to go. I don't need to run the trials because I got the buy.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I think your buy should be eliminated if you have to serve a punishment between achieving you before to use the buy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean the scenarios where this happens are so rare that
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think it's going to be like a big push for. I mean, it probably will. What will happen most likely is you have to imagine a scenario. Imagine Christian Coleman's coming back and he's just not in his best shape, right? And he kind of
Mm-hmm.
takes his time and he decides to like jog at the trials because he has a bye. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
look bad because the guy who fresh off of his suspension then is kind of just like lollygagging through USA's. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
double criticism because people who do that already kind of get criticized. Some more than others. Some like take the bye really seriously, like Christian Coleman, where he like goes and runs and does one jump and then he's out. You know, Justin Gatlin scratches the
Christian
final.
Taylor.
You know, it happens.
I mean, Christian Taylor.
Christian Taylor, yeah. Who did I say? Who did I
Christian
say?
Coleman.
Oh yeah, Christian Taylor. Sorry, jump once in the triple jump. Uh,
Yeah.
he's. It is going to be a bad look if he does
Mm-hmm.
not try to win USA's in 2022. It will. I
There we
think
go.
it will.
Lynn writes in, just says that she liked the CJ Albertson pod. I hope people did as well. If they haven't, check it out. It was posted yesterday, so episode 207, I guess.
So
207, there you go. Kurt writes in, at the risk of being Gordon's hype man here again, see, I don't like this already. I'm on board with keeping the Olympics a team-only thing. I realize that may eliminate a few folks, possibly, but not Cheptegei. The Ugandans won the world champs by a lot, even by NCAA scoring. The Ugandan team had 5 in before either Ethiopia or Kenya even had 3, 5 in the top 12 on the men's side. The women had a solid 4 as well. Always comes down to that 5th there. So they also did well on the U20 races. I also believe that in a way, the additional individual competitors takes away from the team aspect. However, I am to some extent okay with it because it allows the ability of some folks to get in that wouldn't, and without it, you're in a situation of the rich get richer. I can see a kid looking at a school and seeing an individual competitor in, say, an NCAA race, liking the program and coach and saying there's a low stick. If we can get a few more, we can make it as a team and build from there. Lastly, on the indoor meet being split over 2 weeks, I feel you missed the opportunity there to say it's perfect. Have the distance kids and say the throws and the faults, because I don't think there is any overlap with the sprints and jumps, which would happen over the next weekend, compete in the early weekend. This even allows doubles like the 3K, 5K to happen and frees the best teams to compete in cross, which we all know is the best anyway. I would love that option. He also adds in there are only a few athletes that will be involved in both due to qualifying. Would not be a mad rush to get to Stillwater, although the idea of kids hitching was funny. And 3, and you get the best athletes competing at as close to peak as possible. That is Kurt agreeing with Gordon.
A couple things you mentioned there. Yeah, he basically is saying like he's on board that. I mean, I think sometimes the individuals who aren't a part of teams or in big races like a cross country meet kind of ruin the viewing. I mean, we are able to handle it because we know how it works, but from like a dumb person's perspective, they're like, why does the person who won not part of a team? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You like track is one of the main very few sports that tries to do try to crown 2 different champions simultaneously that are on different, with an individual race and a team race. I mean, sometimes you have that when if like you have an individual, like there's no team race in golf. It's all individual, right? It's one of they chose we're going to be an individual sport. We're not a team sport. And then other sports are like we're a team sport. I don't know.
Here's the thing, though, and you know this because you've worked on cross-country broadcasts. It's really hard to convey the team race in a cross-country competition. It's
Right.
much easier to chronicle the individual race. And
Agreed.
I guess if you got rid of the individuals, then the individual race is the de facto team race up front. But if you have one or two people break away, then that's what you're looking at. And it's really hard to go and find the fourth and fifth runners and create a compelling storyline about it. So get on that, Gordon, is what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Ezra wrote in. Says, I don't have a question. I just wanted to tell Gordon the Eagles are bad and the Sixers will be too. So, you know, the emailers giveth and the emailers taketh away, Gordon. I'm sorry.
I think I responded to that one. I think
you did, and I realized
my
name is on the account. My name's on the account. Like it's FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com, but it says my name. So it looks like I wrote that. Ezra, I want you to know that was not me. You replied with a Ben Simmons gif where is he shaking his head, I guess?
He's just like, we'll see. That's what he's saying. He's saying he has a we'll see face.
Mm-hmm.
I still believe in my Sixers, man. Preseason starts in 4 days. Let's get it.
I'm excited for you to
I'm excited for winter break because I'll be gone for like a few weeks and there's going to be like 10 basketball games in that 10 Sixers games during that time. I'm like, this is great. I need sports
What do you mean
back.
you're going to be gone? We're going to be recording podcasts. So you're not
going
to
be gone. I'm going home. I leave on the 21st, come back the 4th.
Yeah, I know, but your internet still works there, right?
Yeah, man. No, I'm going to be like home though. That's why I'm at break. Home. I'm really good at defying governor's orders of like that tell me not to fly, don't visit family. I'm like, no, I'm doing it. So I'm like the worst citizen.
Yeah.
Do you know how bad I am? I only wear masks when I go into stores. That's how bad of a person I am.
You should have one on right now. I think you should wear it right now. Okay. One more here. We got time for one more. Here's one from Jeff in Texas. He said, I listened to your episode about the 209 treadmill marathon. You brought up the topic of winning an EGOT as a runner. Do you know what an EGOT is, Gordon? Link and I talked about this.
Yes, of course.
So I made the joke that CJ Albertson.
Emmys. It's someone who's won an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Right. And I made the joke that CJ Albertson had the running equivalent because he had the 50K world record, the treadmill world record, and the indoor marathon world record. Only 3. Anyway. He wants to know, though, what it would be for track. He says in tennis, if you win 4 Grand Slams, it's considered a career Grand Slam. Also, the Golden Slam if you add an Olympic title to your career. In horse racing, the Triple Crown for winning Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Belmont. Grand Slam also applies to golfers who win all 4 major championships in a calendar year, or a career Grand Slam for winning all 4 in a career. What would be the requirement for runners? If we're talking about marathoners, what 4 races would be considered as the EGOT? Obviously, the most prestigious would be Olympics. But of all the Abbott World Marathon majors, which ones are part of the club? If discussing track athletes, what is their EGOT?
Yeah, well, first of all, he makes a good point. We need an EGOT, and so we need to bring majors to outdoor track championships. Get rid of indoors, get rid of world relays. He's proving my point. But I would say obviously for marathoners, it's winning every major, right? That would be the EGOT, winning every major and then winning the Olympics. I think for track,
doesn't work for track.
It doesn't, but like I think for track would be winning in winning in 3 different events, winning a gold in 3 different events, not counting relays. So like, because you have a lot of people who can win the gold in 100 and a 200, but how many have won a 1, 2, and 4? You never see that, right? That would be like impressive. Okay. And then distance, you have 5 and 10s, you have 5 and 15s, but do you have a 15, 5 and 10? You have 8 and 15, but do you have a 4, 8, 15? I don't know. That would probably never happen. But like, you basically winning 3 different events. That would be an EGOT, in my opinion, because that doesn't happen often in a career.
I think.
Can you think of anyone
asking? 3 event 1, 2. No.
I guess technically sprinters can win a long jump, but outside of that.
I mean, back in the day, I'm sure there was somebody. But if you're talking about 3 consecutive running events, no. Well, wait, no. Emil Zatopek, speaking of back in the day, I think he went 5K, 10K marathon at the Olympics. So I could think of him. I think for the marathon, I mean, obviously this works best for the marathon. I think it's too high of a bar to say every world marathon major. because there's a lot of them now. And if we're just narrowing it down to 4, I think if you did Olympics, New York, Boston, and London, I think that covers everything that you need to
So
cover. Because
why did you not choose Tokyo or Berlin?
Tokyo, it's not that good of a marathon right now. There's like 3 non-marathon majors that are better than Tokyo. Berlin, fast course, flat course. It's covered by London. It's a bit redundant with London. So,
Okay.
and the field's never that good. They're not that deep. I shouldn't say they're not that good because Kipchoge runs there, but I don't think it's a career accomplishment.
Like New York.
Yeah. Well, and if we're narrowing it down to 4, you got to get it down to 4. Someone gets left out. So you have the Olympics, and then you have New York in the fall, and then I'm picking the 2 ones in the spring, Boston and London. I think it would be awesome if Kipchoge tried to do New York and Boston. I think that would be pretty cool. He's obviously got Chicago, Berlin, and London. I mean, it'd be cool if he won all of them, let's be honest. But asking someone to win all of them, I think we'd end up with no EGOT winners, and I want to give it to somebody at least at some point.
Well, I think, though, we have people who probably could have won all of them, but they never tried.
True. So I want to entice them. And I feel like if I say, you need to win these 7 marathons, it's too big of a task.
And the reason why, yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But the reason why is because once you win one, they tell you to keep coming back, and then you're not able to go try to win a different one. Yeah.
Yeah. The better, if you really wanted someone to do this, you probably wouldn't say Boston, because you wouldn't want to schedule someone counter to London because the contract is too lucrative, it seems, to pass up. So maybe you do 2 in the fall. You do London, and then you do Chicago, New York, and then the Olympics. I would obviously take the World Championships out of it because it doesn't have the same prestige as the Olympics. But those would be my 4.
The way you could make it happen, yes, we do have the World Marathon majors, like as the whatever, but the reason why people aren't trying to win all of them is because each one is kind of separate from each other. They don't all have the same event director. If they all had the same event director, then the event director would encourage them to go to every one. But event director is only one that comes to theirs. So Galen Rupp has run Chicago multiple times. He could have run New York, but he's never done it. He's just run Chicago and Boston, Chicago, Boston, and he's never ever going to, go away from that path. The same thing how Kipchoge. Oh my god, Kipchoge. I got a weird mental gymnastics. But yeah, that's how we would get it. You would need the major marathons all have the same event director, and then they're all like, all right, we want this to happen, and then it would happen.
Yeah. No, I'm for it. Have a little more coordination, or I remember a couple years ago, this was a suggestion where, especially when you had 2 in one season, like 1 year is a men's year, and then the next year is the women's year. So that way you get the best people at every field every other year. So that way Boston and London aren't splitting people. It's like, oh no, all the best men go to Boston this year, all the best women go to London, and then the next year we flip. Yeah. Be a little tricky.
Has anyone ever won
3?
Has anyone ever won a Diamond League race in every Diamond League city?
I was thinking about that, but I also was thinking, well, some of the not all Diamond League fields are created equal, so it's not a pinnacle.
But like it's a lot. It's like 13 different cities, 10 different cities. I'm gonna look into that. I mean, that'll be an interesting.
Okay, so
who's won in every single city?
So Bolt never ran at Pre, so you can cross him out.
He's out.
Yeah. I would guess it might be someone like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, or it might be someone like LaShawn Merritt. Those are people I'm thinking of. People in commonly run events. I mean, Warholm's never gone to Pre. That's a good place to start. Just eliminate people who have not gone to Pre, because that's a long flight for people in Europe. So you eliminate a ton of people. That's a fun stat.
Someone can look that up. Find an athlete who's one of the cities that are currently used, because I know there's some cities that don't exist anymore.
New York.
So figure that out. That'll be cool. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Gordon gave you your homework. Make sure you get that to us by Monday. Thanks to Alon for producing. Have a great weekend, everyone. We will see you next week.